Hello folks and welcome back to our Vancouver Regionals Championship coverage on the VGC side of things. You might be asking, hey Thunder, where's round 9? It didn't get streamed. I thought it did. That means there's only 2 videos today. If you haven't seen the last of Swiss of day 1, you can go check that out. But today, it means we are now looking at round number 10. This is winning in. Whoever wins this gets into Top Cut. Whoever doesn't is going home, or at least sitting and watching Top Cut. And we have, once again, some exciting stuff here. We have Giovanni Cischke, which I had to dig through for the casters to get that name pronunciation right because I was not going to mess it up, versus Yotam Cohen. And for Geo here, we have Raging Bolt, Fluttermane, Ogerpon, Cornerstone, which we have not seen as much on stream as we did at EUIC, but it is still here and present. Chi-Yu, which takes great advantage of the sun, is a lovely partner for Fluttermane and Raging Bolt. And then Koraidon, which sets up the sun. It is a clear amulet Koraidon. It does have collision course, flame charge, flare bits protect. This is a much more standard Koraidon, things that we normally see. It is not Wolf's Koraidon from EUIC. And then finally, we have a Ditto to round things out. We have seen this on Joseph Ugarte's team with the Focus Sash transform. It has been a great utility piece to get another really strong Pokemon, be it a restricted or just something else that's good. Raging Bolt here is an Assault Vest Terra Electric variant with Thunderbolt, Draco Meteor, Thunderclap, and Volt Switch. Fluttermane has some pretty exciting moves here. Well, one exciting move with it being Sunny Day. That's kind of going to tell us that this booster energy is going to make it a speedy Fluttermane here, and otherwise has Moonblast, Icy Wind, and Protect. It is Terra Fairy to take away that ghost typing, which we've seen happen a lot in the face of Shadow Riders. Ogerpon Cornerstone Mask here is Power Whip, Ivy Cudgel, Spiky Shield, and Follow Me. Occasionally you see the Helping Hand. Occasionally you see the Focus Energy, although that's usually been on the on the Hearthflame Ogerpons. So all this, the Chi-Yu as well is Choice Scarf, which is pretty big, and again, it loves taking advantage of that sun that Koraidon, or in this case, Fluttermane, can set up. On the other side of things here, we have Yotam Cohen here. Also, if you watch the previous video, this is bright and early in the morning. They got a good night's rest. They won their previous game more likely than not. And now they're here to play one more match to see if they can get in the Top Cut. And for Yotam here, we have that Shadow Rider team that we talked about before, but otherwise it looks kind of similar. We have that Shadow Rider Calyrex that is Terra Dark with Nasty Plot, Psychic, and Astral Barrage. No fancy techs here with Giga Drain or Draining Kiss. And then we also have a Choice Scarf Chi-Yu here, Terra Ghost with Beads of Ruin, Heatwave, Dark Pulse, Snarl, and Overeat. I believe this looks like the exact same Chi-Yu move-wise and everything else. Fluttermane as well with Booster Energy, Thunder Wave, not Sunny Day, Icy Wind, Moonblast, and Terra Grass. Can't get Spored or Rage Powdered. Rillaboom here with Terra Water, Woodhammer, Grass Cloud, U-Turn, and Fake Out. Terra Water here, not the most useful up against a potential Raging Bolt. Amoonguss with the Terra Fire, Rocky Helmet can redirect any potential physical moves. Flare Blitz could do quite a bit of damage, but with that Terra Fire can resist it and do some good recoil back. Rage Powder, Sludge Bomb, Spore, and Protect. And then to round things out, Urshifu Rapid Strike. He's not going to like dealing with the sun, but close combat can do some good work. And Terra Stellar here to do some extra damage to terastallize Pokemon on the other side of the field. Notably, this Urshifu, Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and Protect with the Focus Sash. So no choice items here, no damage boosting items here, just the raw power of Urshifu, which is, quite frankly, pretty darn good here. Again, I expect this Fluttermane over here with the Booster Energy to be Speed Booster Energy, which both Fluttermanes are going to kind of be dueling here. Rillaboom with the Fake Out could be pretty important up against an opposing Koraidon. There is no Intimidate on the side of the field here for Yotam, so I don't think there's any stat dropping directly things that Yotam has. So that Clear Amulet for Giovanni, not too important in this game. Now, for Giovanni, getting the sun up feels like a pretty big priority. You do have Fluttermane and Chi-Yu, which both perform really well in the sun and also like going up against most of Yotam's team. And the sun getting up for Geo means quite a bit of damage reduction against a potential Urshifu. And we see Geo lead the Chi-Yu Fluttermane here, and Yotam lead with the Fluttermane and Calyrex. So, special attackers all on the board. Beads of Ruin gonna be making a lot of these defenses feel like absolute paper. Chi-Yu, even with these speed boosts, likely could still be the fastest thing on the field. Calyrex is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage if it is even able to get an attack off. It is Terra Dark, so it should be able to survive a potential Dark Pulse, but that does also put it into a little bit of a pin where it would have to take a Moonblast from the Fluttermane on the other side of the field. Yotam notably does not has Thunder Wave on his Fluttermane, so Thunder Waving into the Chi-Yu could be pretty good, but at the same time, if you get hit with the Icy Wind first, then all of a sudden a single Heat Wave could spell doom for you. This is a little bit of a chessboard kind, or not necessarily a chessboard. This is a place where there's no obvious correct move. Players have to make a good call, anticipate specifically what their opponent is going to do. There's not something obvious where either player has more pressure over the other than Giovanni having a pretty good spot into this Calyrex. We do see the Terastallization coming out from Giovanni here, going into the Terra Fairy, removing the weakness to Astral Barrage that Yotam could throw out. Notably, we're not seeing any switches here, so Yotam deciding to stay in and go for the Protect instead. This does give Yotam the ability to go for Icy Wind or Thunder Wave into the Chi-Yu to slow it down, put it a little bit behind, and hopefully make his own Calyrex faster, or at least fast enough to try to deal with it somehow. We do see the Icy Wind get speed drops on both of Giovanni's Pokemon here. We see the Icy Wind come out from Giovanni as well. Fluttermane for Fluttermane, speed drop for speed drop. It looks like Yotam's Fluttermane took a little bit more damage there. We'll have to look at the HP pools after this. Actually, yeah, we can take a look. We'll be able to remember. We're smart people. Heat Wave does take Fluttermane down to a little bit below half. It looks like it did pretty much the same amount of damage. Now, this Shadow Rider potentially could be a little bit faster than the Chi-Yu. That might come down to what another Icy Wind does, but Fluttermane for Giovanni isn't in too bad of a spot. It still isn't going to be weak to Astral Barrage. Life Orb does mean that this Calyrex is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage, but Fluttermane also doesn't mind this position too much. It is Terra Dark, not Terra Dark, it is a Dark and Fire type, which gives it a ton of defenses to everything that Yotam has on the field right now. So and Chi-Yu notably does not get affected by Beads of Ruin itself, so its own special defense is not feeling too bad. We saw the Heat Wave do a decent amount of the Fluttermane here. I don't know if it KOs unless it is in the sun, which is we are seeing Giovanni set up right here and right now. That was a fun camera angle. So the interesting thing here is going to be tongue-tied. B to see where the speed tiers lie. The Astral Barrage comes through. Koraidon goes down with a critical hit. That is pretty tough. You feel good about that if you're Yotam, but you are up against this Chi-Yu here, which if you're going with a Moonblast for Yotam, then you're probably not KOing this Chi-Yu, but you might get some good damage in. It does take Chi-Yu down to incredibly low levels, and the Overheat comes out. I mean, that should take out this Calyrex, no problem. Calyrex falls. It's restricted for restricted, but Yotam has a relatively healthy Fluttermane. Not the healthiest thing in the world, but also not the weakest. Chi-Yu feeling pretty ill here, not feeling great, does not want to have to deal with this opposing Fluttermane, especially with that speed drop. Now, Giovanni does have the Fluttermane with some more HP, can still come in and get a speed boost with the sun being up. Yotam does not have a way to get rid of the sun, so both Fluttermanes are going to be pretty speedy for the rest of the game. That's going to be pretty big. The question becomes, if Giovanni gets another Icy Wind off with his Fluttermane, how much damage can Chi-Yu do at -2 special attack? Can Giovanni still make this happen? Do you sacrifice the Chi-Yu? Do you try to just get more damage out with it? It is Chi-Yu. You are in the sun. You still have a lot of damage that you can do. And we see Yotam bring out the Urshifu. Even in the sun here, Aqua Jet will take out Chi-Yu from this range. We see Giovanni bring in the Fluttermane here. So Fluttermane feels pretty good up against an Urshifu, but does not like, and loves being on the field with Chi-Yu, but Chi-Yu either has to switch here or go down. Giovanni has to make the choice to either sacrifice this guy and get the Ogerpon Cornerstone that we saw in the back in without taking any damage, or you risk the Ogerpon Cornerstone coming in, taking some damage, potentially taking an Aqua Jet, breaking its own sturdy, and then having to deal with this Urshifu either with this Moonblast or some creative way with the remaining Pokemon that you have. For Giovanni, or neither player here knows what the fourth Pokemon is, which could very well change a lot of things. You could have Raging Bolt, you could have Rillaboom if you are Yotam. You could very well have Ditto in the back if you are Giovanni here, and Ditto copying an Urshifu wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Yotam does reveal the fourth here, and it is indeed the Amoonguss. So Giovanni goes for the swap as well. Both players swapping out their weakened Pokemon. Giovanni brings in the Ogerpon here. The threat of Aqua Jet just too much. Yotam gets a good read there, goes for the Protect. No damage coming out from Yotam on this turn, but no damage coming out. Ooh, actually, Giovanni going for the Moonblast into the Amoonguss slot, what was the Fluttermane slot. So getting a little bit of chip damage there onto the Amoonguss, doing about a fifth of its HP. That could result in some pretty big stuff later in this game. Now, notably, Amoonguss can't really do much into this Ogerpon. It can go for Sludge Bombs, but Ogerpon doesn't really mind that. Surging Strikes from Urshifu could be pretty big, but with the damage being halved in the sun, I don't know that Ogerpon goes down to it, and Ogerpon could still go for a Power Whip or into the Urshifu, and a Moonblast as well into that slot would feel pretty good. Amoonguss has an opportunity to take down or do some damage to the Fluttermane, but if you're Giovanni, I wonder how we feel about potentially sacking the Fluttermane here, getting Chi-Yu in relatively free. You know what is in the back. Ogerpon does lose out on that Sturdy here. Icy Wind comes through for the Fluttermane. It's going to do a good chunk to the Amoonguss. Not that good of a chunk, but a decent chunk. But notably, it breaks the Focus Sash on the Urshifu. The speeds are going to drop, but that's not going to matter all that much here. Ogerpon gets to attack, and the Power Whip hits. Urshifu goes down. That's going to leave a Fluttermane and Amoonguss left for Yotam here. What is this Amoonguss going for? Is it a Spore into the Fluttermane? It's a Sludge Bomb into the Ogerpon. Takes it down just below half HP, but Yotam is going to be bringing in a Fluttermane that's at quite low HP. Both Pokemon are going to be getting a speed boost here. So it might come down to a little bit of a speed tie. We don't know exactly which Fluttermane is faster. I believe Giovanni's went, or actually, I don't remember which one went first with the Icy Wind. That might give you a little bit of a hint at which one is faster. Again, one could be, I think they're both equally bulky. We saw them do basically the same amount of damage to each other, so that implies that they're also speed tying more likely than not, unless one has some defensive bulk potentially, although I don't think that is the case. Amoonguss not in a great spot to win this on its own. It does not want to have to deal with a Chi-Yu in the sun to end the game. Obviously, Spore could potentially lead to that, but I don't think it's going to happen. Yotam here needs to get some pretty big KOs. We see the Fluttermane go for Protect here for Giovanni. Probably feel pretty good about that. Honestly, if Giovanni now can outlast the sun, we see the Spiky Shield as well. That should mean the Fluttermane gets too slow for Yotam, which should eventually result in the Chi-Yu winning the game towards the end. So I believe there's one more turn. There's one or two more turns of sun left here. We see the Spore and the Moonblast coming out for Yotam here. Those are the selected moves. Ogerpon, though, it's not going to be the fastest thing on the field, but it's going to be able to get in some pretty good damage. I don't even know if Moonblast necessarily takes it out. It certainly could. Fluttermane is no slouch, but Ogerpon's a good Pokemon, man. I think it probably does 60 to 70% though, so this Ogerpon probably is going down to that Moonblast. But if you're Giovanni, you don't mind Fluttermane necessarily getting spored. You go for Icy Wind here, get some more damage on both of these Pokemon, gives you the opportunity to get a really, really clean Heat Wave to close out the game. We have not seen a Terastallization though for Yotam yet, which is pretty big. Amoonguss doesn't want to Terastallize in front of this Ogerpon, so getting that down is a pretty big priority. And now this Fluttermane for Giovanni gets to go for another attack here. Icy Wind comes through. It does miss the Amoonguss. I don't know how important that's going to be. A little bit more damage onto the Fluttermane here. That could matter with a potential Heat Wave ending the game. Sludge Bomb into the Fluttermane, though, not a Spore. Poison does come through, but this Fluttermane is going to be the faster of the two now. That is going to be pretty big. The Sunlight does fade, and I think that means that Chi-Yu now is going to be the fastest thing on the field again. Heat Wave, though, is on the table for Giovanni, and with this Fluttermane still alive and able to go for some damage, that could just spell the end of the game, even if a Heat Wave potentially misses here. But I think that's what it's going to have to take. I think it's going to have to take some pretty big misses from Heat Wave. It's going to have to take the speed tie going in favor of Yotam once again. And Amoonguss maybe getting the Sludge Bomb KO on Fluttermane, and Fluttermane getting the Moonblast KO on Chi-Yu for Yotam. If you're Giovanni here, is there a world where you go for a Protect, see what happens with the Heat Waves? If they hit, and then maybe you choose a different move going into the end of the game, but I don't think it necessarily matters. Sunny Day, I don't know if you want, I don't think you risk your opponent's Fluttermane becoming too much faster here. And I think if you're Giovanni, you just hit Heat Wave. Again, the chance of a miss is pretty rough here. Yotam does go for Protect on his own Fluttermane. Maybe if the Amoonguss, maybe if you can, bait Giovanni into setting up the sun, you'll be able to make some you'll be able to make some better choices. You do get to see what the Chi-Yu locks into with Choice Scarf, or not Choice Scarf here. It's not a Choice Scarf Chi-Yu, it's a Covert Cloak Chi-Yu. What am I talking about? Yotam has the Choice Scarf Chi-Yu, but I think with Heat Wave coming through, again, the situation has not changed for Yotam here. Other than Flutter Mane takes a little bit more damage. I guess if you get off another double protect, Flutter Mane goes down to poison. And then if there is a miss from the Chi-Yu on the Heat Wave, it'll go down to whatever attack comes out. We do see the Terastallization coming out now for Yotam here. This should be the Amoonguss going into Terra Water, which is what we saw before. Oh, Terra Fire. Never mind. Giovanni has a Terra Water Amoonguss. My apologies here. This, some similar stuff is a little bit bamboozling. It is a Terra Fire Amoonguss, so that is going to resist a Heat Wave, although I don't know if it's going to be enough. Moonblast comes through, goes into Amoonguss, does a lot, even though it's resisted. Those Beads of Ruin coming in clutch, and there is no miss on the Heat Wave. Giovanni Cischke takes game number 1 there. That was an interesting game. Personally, I got tongue-tied a lot because these guys have some pretty similar Pokemon on their teams, but with just enough differences to make it count. Now, if you are Yotam, I don't know if you necessarily feel a lot of pressure to change your lead going into game 2. The game felt kind of close. You just weren't able to get a really, really solid footing. You were able to take out the Koraidon in one hit, which felt really good, but that probably came down to a crit. I don't know if it goes down cleanly without the critical hit. So if you're a Yotam, do you make some adjustments? Does having your own Chi-Yu come into play? Does bringing, terrestrializing your Flutter Mane at a different point come into play? We went for the Amoonguss Terastallization, but you need to go for something else, something a little bit more offensive. There is no ability for Yotam to reset the weather, which is pretty big. That gives Giovanni, or it really gives both players a good opportunity to do quite a lot of damage if Yotam can maneuver things well, but Giovanni's team is built for it, is built with it in mind, and so that might be what gives Giovanni the edge going in to the rest of this series. With that being said, let's go ahead and check out game number 2 here. Yotam brings out the Flutter Mane and the Urshifu Rapid Strike. Giovanni brings out the Chi-Yu and the Flutter Mane of his own once again. So Yotam gets to put on a lot of pressure with this Urshifu. Surging Strikes gets to do a ton of damage. You are worried about the potential Moonblast from the opposing Flutter Mane, but you have Focus Sash. At the very least, you wouldn't be going down in one hit from it. That said, Chi-Yu is a very fast Pokemon. Is Urshifu faster? That is the question. Also, the whole previous game, I was operating off this Chi-Yu having Choice Scarf. It has Covert Cloak. Yotam gaslit me into thinking both Chi-Yus had Choice Scarves. I blame that on him. So, we saw in the previous game, both Flutters go for Icy Wind. I don't think that is what's going to happen here. I think we're either going to get some swaps here, maybe bring in Koraidon, get the Sun Up. Maybe this Flutter Mane for Geo actually gets the Sun Up. We could certainly see that. But I think the ability to go for speed control here is pretty big for Yotam. Again, the Sun going up for Giovanni is probably your best thing here. It powers up Chi-Yu and it weakens Urshifu by a ton. And even though Surging Strikes might still KO Chi-Yu in the rain, Aqua Jet certainly doesn't, whereas previously Surging Strikes doesn't KO Chi-Yu in the sun. Good Lord, I got to get my tongue untied. So, Sunlight turns harsh. What's going to happen next? Urshifu goes for a Protect. I think that's a pretty good move from Yotam here. Again, getting to scout out some stuff here. The Sun going up for relatively free here doesn't feel very good, though. Koraidon getting onto the field here for relatively free doesn't feel very good. And Chi-Yu goes for the Overheat into the Flutter Mane that takes it out in one fell swoop. The special attack drop is going to hurt quite a bit, but this Koraidon on the field now can take the reins from Chi-Yu as the damage dealer. Chi-Yu now, it still can do quite a bit. It doesn't have nearly the amount of pressure as it did before. It can still go for a Snarl, though, or a Dark Pulse, as Yotam has brought in the Shadow Rider Calyrex. Snarl here would absolutely obliterate it. This Calyrex can go for Psychic into the Koraidon, which is pretty big. I think it's going to depend on how this Koraidon is trained speed-wise. We saw that the EUIC winning Koraidon was max speed, was outspeeding some opposing Shadow Rider Calyrexes, who were maybe not full speed themselves. So it's going to depend on how this Koraidon is trained. A lot of times, previously, the standard way to run Koraidon was not necessarily max speed, either max out your attack or give it some bulk and not go for those speedy options. So if this isn't max speed Koraidon here, it's under a lot of pressure from the Shadow Rider, and Urshifu can still get some work done. It has Focus Sash active. Can throw out some good damage with close combat into the Chi-Yu as well. And with that Flutterman getting Icy Wind off, both these Pokemon are going to be incredibly slow. So that actually should guarantee that Calyrex can move before them. Urshifu does get the Aqua Jet off into the Koraidon here. It does no damage at all, and the Astral Barrage comes through. It's going to do a little bit into Chi-Yu. It shouldn't be too much. We saw it do quite a bit in the previous game. Yeah, not very effective into that Chi-Yu, and that Life Orb is going to feel really bad. Heat Wave comes through for the Chi-Yu again. Does a decent bit, but with that -2 special attack, that hurts. The burn coming in on the Shadow Rider combined with Life Orb damage, the Shadow Rider, even if it sticks on the field and gets some KOs, it's not going to have too many more turns where it can make anything happen here. And with Giovanni still having a full 4 Pokemon, most of them, I believe, with the ability to protect, that alone might mean Yotam doesn't have many turns left to get damage out with this Calyrex. Urshifu, still relatively healthy. That Aqua Jet is tough, though. You got 2 damage into that Koraidon. That shouldn't matter too much in the long run. You had an opportunity to go close combat into the Chi-Yu there. There's a world where you might want to keep Chi-Yu on the field if you're Giovanni, and also with Chi-Yu going -2 special attack, there's a world where that just swaps into the Fluttermane, and close combating into that wouldn't get you anywhere. Perhaps that means you Surging Strikes into that Chi-Yu. That could certainly be it. The Aqua Jet goes into the Chi-Yu this time, gets about half of Chi-Yu's remaining HP down. Astral Barrage should take it down from this range. It's going to be incredibly close. I think we saw it do 50 damage. It did indeed. And Koraidon goes down as well. Another critical hit on the Koraidon. Again, I think at that point, I'm not certain if it mattered, because Beads of Ruin does indeed affect the Koraidon. Which does not feel good if you're Giovanni, but Giovanni does have the Fluttermane in the back still. It's going to be quite fast due to the sun still being up, and we haven't seen Pokemon number 4 yet, or maybe we have and I just don't remember what it was, or like, yeah, I don't quite remember what it was, and it is that Fluttermane, or I'm sorry, it is that Ogerpon that is still in the back. So, Fluttermane, Ogerpon on the field. These are the 2 that got Giovanni home in game number 1. Yotam still has the Urshifu and Calyrex. The Urshifu is at relatively decent HP. Focus Sash is broken, though. Fluttermane should now be the fastest thing on the field, and Ogerpon can go for redirection with Follow Me. Ogerpon also has threat on the Urshifu with Power Whip, and Calyrex should go down to a single Ivy Cudgel as well. We don't know what's in the back at number 4. It could be Amoonguss again for Yotam here, which wouldn't necessarily feel too bad if you can deal some more damage to the Ogerpon and Fluttermane without getting too low. If you can survive with 1 Pokemon this turn, keeping either the Urshifu or the Calyrex alive for Yotam, I think you might have a path to victory. If they both go down, that's it. That's GG, right? That feels pretty obvious. But if Calyrex can stay alive, get a couple of Astral Barrages off, it's going to go down to the burn pretty quick here. Urshifu can maybe break the Sturdy for the Ogerpon, which might be enough in the long run for Yotam to win, but it's going to be pretty tough. Even though Yotam has the Pokemon advantage, the speed advantage certainly is not in his favor, and this Fluttermane can kind of it's not going to guarantee any KOs here. We do see the Protect for Yotam come out of the Shadow Rider here. Does that mean we're getting the Protect out of the Urshifu? I don't think so. All right, yeah, we do get the Protect out of the Urshifu. So notably, Calyrex is faster than the Urshifu here. That's good to know. But Yotam just gets to see both what moves Giovanni, or I'm sorry, Yotam gets to see what Giovanni goes for here and gets to try to stall out the sun by a couple more turns. If Yotam can stall out the sun, I think that does just wrap it up pretty nice and neat. But Yotam can't wait too long. This burn is doing its work slowly and surely on this Shadow Rider. If you're Giovanni now, I think you just click Moonblast and Ivy Cudgel into the Urshifu just to try to guarantee that that thing goes down. That's your number 1 op right now. You got to try to get rid of that. If you're Yotam, you either have to... do you sacrifice? Are you planning on sacrificing the Urshifu to get an Aqua Jet onto the Ogerpon, break its Sturdy, hope that Calyrex with that +1 boost can take it out? Or actually, it's a +2 boost. With that +2 boost can take it out. It should be able to, but does Calyrex go down to a Moonblast as well? I think it does. And so if Calyrex goes down, your Urshifu cannot risk letting Ogerpon stay up. You kind of have to go for Surging Strikes, but Ogerpon can be trained to survive that. It legitimately can. Yotam here takes another route, withdraws the Shadow Rider, and brings in that Amoonguss in the back. Remember, this is a Terra Fire Amoonguss. It can take a lot of these hits pretty well. The Aqua Jet does go into the Ogerpon to break the Sturdy. The Moonblast goes into the Amoonguss. No knockouts are getting taken on this turn yet, but we saw what happened in the last game. This Ogerpon got to go for Power Whip. It gets it again. The Urshifu goes down. It's Amoonguss and Shadow Rider with a burn up against a Fluttermane and a Cornerstone Ogerpon. The sunlight does fade. Fluttermane is going to slow down a little bit. Does it slow down enough? And what can Ogerpon do here? Calyrex no longer has that +2 boost to its special attack. I believe we saw Ogerpon survive an Astral Barrage from this spot already, and it can't get Rage Powdered. Calyrex is absolutely going down to a single Ivy Cudgel here, and Fluttermane, even though it doesn't like being against an Amoonguss, when it's partnered with that Ogerpon, it feels very, very good. Amoonguss can barely do anything to Ogerpon. So, unless Ogerpon goes down on this turn, or before the Calyrex goes down, then that should be game for Giovanni. Yotam here, it's a risk with that Urshifu not going for Surging Strikes into the Ogerpon. I don't know the exact, again, we don't know the exact speeds on this Pokemon. Ogerpon could be incredibly bulky here. Urshifu could be not speedy. It'd be very interesting if Ogerpon wasn't max speed with Focus Sash. Although, or Urshifu wasn't max speed with Focus Sash. Ogerpon has 30, so it'd be pretty similar. Calyrex goes for the Protect here. We could just see this Amoonguss go down. We could see a potential Spore. Icy Wind comes out. Amoonguss is going to slow down here. Spore into the Fluttermane or Sludge Bomb into the Fluttermane. Either one works. I think if you're Yotam, honestly, Spore might give you a better chance. I think if you can put the Fluttermane to sleep. Ooh, Ivy Cudgel is actually going into Amoonguss, though. Takes it down to a sliver of its HP. Spore into the Fluttermane here. I think that might give you your best shot at victory if you are Yotam here. Fluttermane is going to be guaranteed to stay asleep on the next turn, but the biggest thing here for this Calyrex might be that Life Orb plus burn damage might just take it out before this Fluttermane goes down. If you're Ogerpon, you go for Spiky Shield here. You have the ability to take out Amoonguss. Fluttermane would take damage from Astral Barrage. It would take, and then Calyrex would take burn and Life Orb damage. Ogerpon could take, I think Ogerpon can tank a +1 special attack. It might be able to. Ooh, this is incredibly tough. This is incredibly tough. It might also just be simpler than that. If you are Giovanni, you might just go for Ivy Cudgel into the Calyrex. That might just be it. Oh, it's entirely going to depend on how much damage can come out here. Astral Barrage comes through. It's going to do quite a bit to this Fluttermane. I don't know if it'll KO. It brings Ogerpon down to 1 HP. That might just decide it right there. I'm not sure of the exact calculation. I don't know if Ogerpon always survives that or if it's a roll. If it's 1 HP, it almost always is. Calyrex goes down to that Ivy Cudgel. Amoonguss can Sludge Bomb into the Ogerpon, but it Sludge Bombs into the Fluttermane. Fluttermane goes down. If Yotam Sludge Bombs into the Ogerpon there, that might have solved it, but we're going to see here. Now, it is important to note, Amoonguss does have Rocky Helmet, so Ogerpon's going to faint too, but Ogerpon gets the damage off first. Amoonguss will fall, Ogerpon will as well, but with that Amoonguss falling first, Giovanni will win this game. They're chatting, they might be chatting about what happens with this Rocky Helmet here. Ivy Cudgel comes through, Amoonguss is going to go down. That is going to be a 2-0 to Giovanni, moving into the top cut. That game too got really, really exciting towards the end. Again, that's one of those situations where there is a very clear world where Yotam can win, and that's Sludge Bomb into the Ogerpon. That doesn't guarantee a win. Again, you could potentially, like, there are other moves that could have been made. The Ogerpon could Spiky Shield, which we briefly talked about. There's a world where maybe that's it. It might not be optimal. You'd have to look at some charts to get that out. But with that, Yotam Cohen is eliminated from Vancouver Regionals, and Giovanni Cischke moves on to Top Cut, which we'll be looking at tomorrow. Until next time, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.